I'm a spiritualist and I'm a shaman. I'm a healer and a teacher, but I'm not a controller. And I don't tell you what to do. That's the problem with the gross domestic product system of capitalism. They've taken healthcare and they're manipulating people to think a certain way. There's a narcissism in mental health. You might have different sexual morality, different views. I'm not a monogamist. It doesn't fit with me, but they'll tell you and put their opinions on it, a psychotherapist. That is not psychotherapy. It's manipulative, narcissistic control. A lot of women get into it. They've been hurt in relationships. They go around telling men or women, don't do that. They put their own little take on it. So I'm going to really denounce Canadian and Westernized psychology and psychiatry. The psychiatry is a racket. We know that. It doesn't cure nothing. Canadian military tell me the same thing. Pills do not cure PTSD. But they think it does because they've been brainwashed by the whole pharmaceutical system. I've talked to Canadian men and women that have come back and they've been put on that stuff. It's worse than the war zone, man. Worse than the war zone. Yeah, I'm a psychiatric survivor, and I got wise and got off it. Now, I was so angry at the whole bloody system, I had to learn to control it. And I'm denouncing citizenship soon because it's our healthcare system. I was going to do a lawsuit on that shrink because I had PTSD. I don't want to live in Canada now because you won't change the system. You won't change anything. You won't talk. So Australia's getting into more shamanic rituals. I still got a few shrinks there. And I've had a lot of emotional problems because I care about things. And it's hard to deal with a world where nobody is apathetic. And that's what the millennials are now. It's not their fault. It's just bloody in-betweens were in there. And they're the yuppie crowd that screwed up the system. It was pretty good at one time. My buddy, he was a hippie. Split and just went and lived on the land. That's what I was trying to do back then. Get going. I was listening to people. I just put music on and play my guitar. I don't listen to people too much, especially their opinions, because I don't agree with psychiatry at all. So I got into shamanism. I'm out in Calgary. This guy comes in. I put myself in the psych ward. I wasn't mentally ill, but I had a record. So they put me in for evaluation. And then they were discovered you got social stress, brother. That was Calgary. They weren't paying doctors. They weren't drugging me. I didn't want drugs. I said, no drugs. There's problems. They're always exploring. Why aren't you on drugs? Well, it's killing me. I was up to 370 pounds. Weight was going up. I was going into seizures. Now, under a malpractice suit, that's an easy case. But lawyers here told me leave for Australia. It's no good here. They've been defending Ontario doctors like a corker, and he should have been put in jail. He was killing me. There was an Australian that told me to fire him, and I did. I can remember my cousin's a medical doctor in Australia. They're not doctors, Mike. They're not doctors. There's something that came out of South America, and they never got any Mingala, the Israelis never caught Mingala. They should have, and I think he got down there, started manipulating the drug industry, and it got really bad. I started out, if I have to go into the history of psychiatry, oh God, it's always been dark. It's the dark ages of psychiatry, absolute dark ages. So they'll come on. They coin a phrase, Here's the phrase they say anti-psychiatry. Well, that's a mental illness. Of course, because you're saying the psychiatrist is mentally ill. Well, most of them are. They're friggin' whack. So, shaman is me. I've flipped out and I've come back from the other side of consciousness. I've had psychic abilities of seeing into the future. And I'm an animal empath. That's a hard thing to take. Any energy healer will say, hey, you're an animal empath. Well, I had to learn to be an animal empath, which I was. And I'll tell you, it's good to learn to ground yourself in Reiki and stuff because you'll flip out. And a lot of clairvoyants do flip out. I've seen them. They get beside themselves, and I don't blame them. It's just so much animal trauma. You know, we got a crazy world of consuming meat and hurting animals. The only way an animal empath like Billie Dean in Australia, I've talked to her. She's a wonderful soul. She lives remote out in New South Wales. She's an animal shaman. There's a lot of shamanism in Australia, in New Zealand. And I like that. I'm a shaman. I believe in, because I found it works. I had a Canadian soldier. He was going to kill himself the night before. I was in that hospital. He moved in with me. Well, he knew I'll kill myself, man. I've been in Sarajevo. I was in artillery. I can't get my head clear. I know I shouldn't kill myself. Well, they don't seem to care, do they? They don't seem to care about our military. That's a blatant, I don't know. My brother was saying stupid things too. He says soldiers are meant to die. They're not meant to die. They're meant to come back and with their skills and their knowledge and get health back. So we did shamanic journeying together. You know, what I did was I manifested the Reiki energy. And I've got Kundalini Reiki. And, you know, they'll say that's crazy. Well, he didn't think so. But he was listening to shamanic native drumming. He was on a spirit quest. And in that space, things came to him. Hey, Greg, I just in the bathroom. I cried my ass out. I'm better today. Getting a little bit better. Bit better. You're breaking through all the cords. Canadian military. Comes out and he says, I'm going home today. I'm safe. I got my head together. I know what I want to do. I'm going to take those Canadian funds that our forces get. I'm going to be a child counselor. I want to help kids. I don't want to see the devil again. They weren't drugging them. They were helping. And there was a lot of shamanic rituals. That's different. It's First Nations were teachings of drumming and circles and talking, not pill pushing. Ontario, pill pushing. A lot of provinces, pill pushers. I'm mad in America is quite right about this. But combining energy healing to create a spaciousness, the gap, will help people. Like a lot of people have PTSD it can't be healed with you cannot heal, and most cases are trauma. We have childhood trauma, everything, but we never have a psychiatric model does not go back to looking at your history and what it was. We now know that there's trauma from ancestral trauma. I've seen it. I've seen it. I know a guy that's Jewish and he's still got ancestral trauma from Auschwitz and stuff. His grandmother was. That carries through. I don't know if it carries in the DNA. I don't know. But it's there. There's theories about it. It's DNA. It goes into tissues. I don't know. But in that space, I don't judge it. I just accept that there is ancestral trauma. I've seen First Nations this way too, and American Native people. the same thing. And that might be 200 years ago a crime was done. I got probably ancestral trauma. My mother was in Papua New Guinea, World War II. She was horribly traumatized. She was in Port Douglas, Port Darwin when the Japanese bombed it. Terrible trauma. And I've always been traumatized. I could feel that energy. So I do a lot of self-healing. I did the Yashuri method and I got into teaching. I haven't been teaching, but I needed insurance. Well, under Canada Pension, I'll get the insurance. It's a lot of money because why it is I do multi-modalities. And I want to be insured. And I do animal healing because that's why I got into it. And I thought I was crazy, this wanting to heal animals. It's the introduction to getting into Reiki because or energy healing, we are so manipulated by the Newtonian theory of healthcare that we don't look at this. And that's what they call a shift, a spiritual shift. So she's sitting down. Energy attracts energy. She's studied level 2 Reiki. Why? She adopted a dog from the animal shelter. She never believed in homeopathy, she told me. Never believed in holistic health, nothing. And she says, now I do. And I said, what's that done to you? I don't know. I don't know what my future is. And then another girl's there, and she says, I've mapped out my life. You're 19 years old and you mapped out your life. Well, you'll come to shifts like that. And these are what we call the dimensional shifts of this consciousness on this planet. And she's having a shift. I call myself a shaman, and I do think I'm a shaman. I'm an animal empath. I'm as powerful as Holly Davis. She admitted it. I'm an animal too. Holly Davis is too. And Shaman Billy Dean. These are women. But then I'm going to tell you something. A lot of women are shamans and healers. They always were. And I talked to Gandalf he's in Michigan. He's a shaman, mystic, into the mystic like Van Morrison. Well, what is the mystic? God, teaching, spirit, anything, clarity. Creative people are more in touch with the outer realities. You ever notice that musicians and artists are deemed bipolar all the time? They have this imbalance. And there's a whole series that got me through this. It was on YouTube years ago. I was bipolar 1, they said. Well, I started following him. He's a Canadian. He's down in South America now. He's got a series called, is it Bipolar or Waking Up? And I started looking at people that have really gone it and get into, like he was a commander of the ship, not Lollipop, no, the Queen ship, the yacht, the Royal Yacht. And he told them all to F off because he just flipped out. He just, bleh. See, we go through these, and these are highly intelligent people, but they flip out. And they get into these polarities. There's one, she's a British military officer. She's trying to drill holes in her head. It's just going to extremes. I'm afraid of Virginia Woolf, this bipolarity. Well, I thought I was crazy. I was so sad. I started driving a taxi cab, and I realized I was caring about people. And being a kind man, I was absorbing it and feeling it. And I was getting really depressed. I started drinking like a friggin' fish. I did. I was an alcoholic. I've gone past that. But I got into psychiatry, and that was a hell of a thing to ever get off of. And I thought, am I crazy? I got talking to a man there. I have his albums. I didn't know who he was. I met him in the bar one day. He was playing in there. He's played on six strings north of the border. His name's Rick Taylor. He's a great guitar player, blues guitarist like me. And I'm a keyboard player. I've been playing music since the 60s. Now, it's been if you're not taking drugs and you still got trauma, guitar playing's a damn good solution. He got damn good as a blues artist, and he's won Junos. But he said to me, I drove cab, man. I drove cab in the 1970s, so I drove in the 80s. It'll drive you nuts. It's not like urban like that, but urban like that's crazy. Like, they'll get in your car, they're all drunk up. Just drive. I was waiting for you, and I got another call. Get out of the cab, please. And they won't get out, these girls. He says, get out of the cab. Guitar won't get out. And you always got to say, get the F out. Get out now. You got me mean, man. I don't like that. And I've had to do that with women. They're friggin' drunk or stoned, and they just, you're trying to do a job. You're waiting for them, and they're just, and then all of a sudden, I can't drive a cab. I did it for 10 years. What happened? I got shot at. They didn't have security on cameras and stuff like they do now. It was crazy. I got shot at 3 rounds, fired, and I got robbed. And I was out in the middle of nowhere. And I know what PTSD is. That night, my mother died about a year before. I was getting over that, but that really flipped me. No, she died in 83. I was shot in 89. I went to Australia in 86. And it was after I got well. No, I was well. I was 86. And I went to Australia and I saw so much of a difference in the medical systems. I was scuba diving there. I had the best time of my life. The best time of my life. And I was always trying to hunt down Aussie girls. And I wasn't getting anywhere because I couldn't speak the Aussie lingo. And they really don't like Canadians unless they're really drunk. But you can get an Aussie girl, you got to pay them. They're probably prostitutes, and I wasn't really into that. I had all sorts of prostitutes driving cab. And, they'll take it on a trade. I'm not into paying for sex, but that's the Australian way, and it's legal there. But I'm not really keen on that. I'd like to meet somebody that's Australian. My mother was Australian, and I loved her so much, but I couldn't get along with her. And I tell you, some Aussies have got this stoicism that you can't deal with. But I've got on to it. The stoic Aussie woman says, she's lawyer. No, she says, it says Ontario Business. I do request. I've been trying to get in touch with Colonial Business now. They don't like me because I'm anti-conservative. It's not working for me. Australian horses, I've tried to join that. I'm not getting through on these things. I'll go back into Guitar Center Incorporated. I'm on that. They're not getting through on LinkedIn. They deleted it. I don't know why I put the requests into these groups. Horse racing professionals. I'm in one, but why aren't you accepting me? I've been on these. What one did I put in? But I've made connections on here. It's too bad I can't get into the LinkedIn groups requests. Maybe I should delete them all and go and request them again. I'll delete them and I'll request them. Sometimes it's just a glitch. And it's getting crazy. I've got all these things on here. Australian Thoroughbred. I love horse racing. See, I got talking to one guy on here. He's an industrialist in Australia. I haven't got time, mate. But he comes back. My God, I just looked. I said, what did you look? You're an animal communicator and you're a Reiki master. We need you here. And then I got another mate. He says, we're trying to run this Melbourne and these are drug bars. You being in horse racing, you know anatomy. We're interested. Here? Oh boy. I'll tell you, there's a lot of prejudice in the horse business. We screwed up the horse racing. So I'm going to get working for a guy. But as soon as I said I was in horse racing, because we got such a bad reputation, that's where I got started. And that's what I love. I love the sport of horse racing, if it's done honestly. I was in standard breds, and there's a lot of standard bred racing in Australia. They closed down tracks. It's still going, but I mean, they closed her all down. It's ridiculous. And so I put in again. I had it going, but my brother died and they stole the estate. She stole the estate. She was manipulating my brother. Coming around, he was very sick. I'm going to have a hard, I could probably win a case, but I'm going to have a hard time proving it. And I'm 65 and I just want to start all over again. She stole about $30,000 of my belongings. It's such a process. You got to hire. I could hire a mitigator. Get a lawyer. You can't get a lawyer because I want to sue a law firm, and I can't even do that. And it's just real estate crookery, and it's her, and she's being horrible. He told me why she doesn't want me. Well, I've decided to denunciate citizenship for those reasons because I'm Australian. I got an Australian mother. My mother was an Australian citizen when I was born. She came here because she had PTSD from Port Darwin. And she was a fine woman, but I couldn't get along with her until the end. And I understand Australian women now. I really do. You can't argue with them. I was just so much like her. I couldn't get along with her. But my dad I was close to. But I loved her. And in the end, she said, Greg, I love you. You got to remember that when she's dying. And I remember her saying that. So the night I got shot at, I heard her voice. I love you, Greg. So in that moment of hearing the rounds go off, I gotta make it through this. I feel I'm loved. How many people go through life unloved? So I don't have friends here too much except musicians. Like we're close, but they keep on hurting the creative elements of Canada. And I'm all for Canada. The musicians and the artists, it's just being put down for industrialism and real estate robbery. And I'm leaving. I can make it in Australia. I can't make it here. One thing, we got a single payer healthcare system. I need money getting paid. And what I'm thinking of doing is getting the Australian, I'll go get a medical check and prove that I think I got enough records there to prove that I'm not mentally insane. I was just misdiagnosed because I went to other provinces that you haven't got mental illness. See, and they're looking at things, and I come back. You had diabetes, you had blood pressure, you had all this. Why is it all gone? Well, people can heal, but they don't teach that. People can get better. These people here won't go to doctors. There's a bunch of women here that are in their 80s. They're in good shape. They quit the doctors, and they got a lawsuit from Calgary. It's crazy because we divided up the provinces in like when I was a Canadian under Pierre Elliott Trudeau, we had I thought it was sounded good on paper. It was called the right to mobility. Now, the Green Party had a solution to give everybody so much to live on, 13,000 a year to live on not a welfare, just an automatic to back you up. If you want to move around the provinces, you got to be 3 months in a province before you get money. And welfare, social insurance, or anything, you got to be 3 months. Well, under an Ontario disability, that you might as well forget it. And I was on disability, and I wasn't getting help. I wasn't getting help from the riding I was in. She wouldn't give me the funds to start my business. So I go into the constituent office. He's progressive conservative, working in small business. So I'm not progressive conservative. And another thing is, they know I'm in the Green Party. So there's a partisanship here. I want to get out. I don't want to live here. I'd like to work in the Green Party, or I'll work with a party that's got a bit of environmental consciousness. That's the whole issue with Canada, is this consciousness of this has got all deleted. And I think Australia's waking up. They had bushfires, and they do admit it was CO2 in the atmosphere. So there's going to be more measures going on, I hope. I'm talking to Nina Fitzgerald. She's a wonderful person. She wanted me to help her manage her entertainment business up in Brisbane. That's doors opening for me. Doors closing here. I got guys in Australia, mates in Australia that want their horses sound. They want holistic horsemanship. Now, there is holistic veterinarians here. But the other ones close the door and won't tell you where they are. It's something they're paid off by pharmaceutical corporations for dogs, cats, horses, people too. There's a war. Like, we got CBD, and I see people getting well, but a doctor will say, "Oh no, no." And I don't know. Maybe they're right, but it's a war because they haven't got the research on CBD. It's not going there. The only research is going to the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm really concerned about this. And I think I got a good point to talk about this. Our Canadian healthcare system is single payer, and all the money goes into private clinics. You go into a doctor's office, you wait about 3 hours for a doctor while he's seeing these pharma reps. And in there, he's giving them samples, and he's giving them all sorts of things, incentives, like you can go to a hockey game, free tickets for you and your staff, privatized healthcare in a public system. So you could go over to the next one. That's a naturopathic doctor, but you got to pay her full out, or him, under the Canadian. There's no integration. That's not good. And it's just too much one way. Don Toolman talked about food and nutrition. There's a separation between the diabetic, these associations, and the major school of medicine. That it's an extramural nutrition. What about the other extramalities? People that want to get people exercising. They're extramalities. They're just not in the system. Like, there's a young man here. He came in from Barrie, Ontario. A lot of people can't get up off the toilet, as seniors. He comes in here, does workshops. He goes in the studio and he gets them doing a little exercise. Because if they can't get off a toilet, you got to get an ambulance in. And if they got a machine, they go in naked. It's humiliating for an old person to fall. Can't get up. My brother died of that. He fell and he was all alone. There's no help. It's actually, lawyers said if you get an investigation on it, she could go to prison. I don't know. This is what I heard, and it's hearsay, so I can't prove it. And I'm getting to the point I don't feel like fighting anymore. So I've been contacting the Maya. I'm putting the thing for and doing a transfer. It's not going to be too bad. When COVID's over, or actually it's a 14-day quarantine. And one thing I'll do is get the COVID check, stay secure away from people, so I don't get a dose of it where I'm the third one. I'm not denying that we got COVID. I don't go around and yell at people. I'm not wearing a mask. We got COVID. It's gonna help crash this. Luke on here. I like him, listening to him. And somebody that's come from the other side of the pond, they can see that Canada's housing market's insane. Australia's prime minister is doing something right. Stopping foreign investment in real estate is got what you have to do. Agenda 21 is insane, building up more buildings in cities when we got information. There's a lot of outlying areas of Australia. You're within 15 minutes of Adelaide, you're out in a nice area away from the cities, and the price of real estate is cheaper. This area is a bubble. GTA, Greater Toronto area. This is 2 hours away, and prices are extreme up here. It's just like Vancouver. It's just like you gotta contain that into the stupidity of a city that's so bloody real estate crazy. Alberta's getting programs, but I don't like conservatives, so I don't. They're getting into rural development because they are looking at, well, this isn't going to work. We got 1,000 people in warehouses, and they're working. What the hell's that? You see the pipeline workers sleeping on mats on floors out in it's called the mustard seed. It's a homeless shelter. It's Newtonian. It's horrible. They don't want them in the city. Oh no, no, no. So they take you out, put you on a bus, and you go in there and you go for these locked doors, and you're locked inside. There's a smoke area. It goes outside, but you're locked in there. There's 1,000 people in there. They got security guards going around all night long. No pillows. No, no, you can't have a pillow. Women are just over in one other section. And it's a horrible system, but they don't want you to film it. You could have your phone take pictures. Oh, no, no, no. Because they know. And it's just, the other one's terrible too. They're going to close it down. It's the DI. It's a horrible damn pit of drug addiction. And who wants to go there, So I ended up and I wondered what the hell's the option. I got stressed from this. I locked myself in a psych ward in Calgary Hospital. I got well. I was waiting for the pension checks to come in, and it wasn't enough to sustain myself. I could have got an apartment up there. But here's my problem. I started listening to the Alberta Works, and they were just pushing me everywhere that they wanted me to go, because the conservatives are always dividing up everything. I wanted to live in Strathmore. Oh, hell no. Send you back to Calgary. I didn't want to live there. I like rural. And then they were telling me where I had to work. He got with Alberta, and he was going to close up the case. I don't want to go to Spruce Meadows. Cut, sign it or go. Signed it, but I came back here, go up to Bonnyville. I'm up there, and she's like me. She agrees this is a fossil fuel empire. And she says, oh, she seems nice. She's a little snake, that one for Alberta Works. She's got everybody going off. And you look at the way they treat people there. They think that's good, the Alberta oil sands. And she says, don't talk any oil. This is oil country. I was talking, and she got me the hell out of there. So when I got the 19,000, which was all that was left out of that estate, I was sold for $300,000. They got it all. They also got all my property. I left my mics, my guitar. Oh, I didn't leave my guitars. They bought them back. Computer, everything. I had Mac, brand new Mac computer, all gone. All my memorabilia, my parents, all gone. They were forcing me out. And I can't do a lawsuit because it's $5,000. I can do if I can get money, and I'm going to do a mitigation to get enough money to leave Canada. I got a couple of things I'm going to do in steps. My mother's name was Dwyer. I found that. I'm changing my name, Dwyer. I don't want anything to do with that family. And I think they let my other brother die in the house. And that's a criminal offense, but it's hard to prove. But I wouldn't pay the funeral expenses. Oh, hell no. I let her pay it after that garbage. That's the sort of thing I'm facing around here. There's sort of a shutdown of emotions. I was in the bar room one night. I was playing in bands up there. And I was having a good time. I come in, and there she's coming in the door with her girlfriend. Looks, oh, there's Uncle Craig. Yeah. And my boss that I used to work for, his wife died here. And he said something to me that night. I was playing and I was jamming with the bands. You're one hell of a smart guy. You can do a lot of things. You're trained in horses. You're trained in everything, but you did a stupid thing coming back to calling. I came back because my mother was dying of Parkinsonian disease. Being a researcher, which I learned in college, I had to do all research on horse therapies and stuff. That was one of the requirements back then. I started looking into why she died of Parkinsonian. Oh, they say it's hereditary. That's utter rubbish. They're spraying DDT around. Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, explained this. DDT was a neurotoxin. And they say it's from pesticides. In most cases, the new finding that Parkinsonian is a horrible death. And she starved herself to death. They wouldn't help her. They just load her up on pills, and she knew the end because she was intelligent, very educated woman. She was like me. She kept on learning. She never gave up learning right to the very end. And she served for the Australian military. She's seen hell there with the Japanese. One of her nursing sisters was Bullwinkle. You know the story of Bullwinkle? It's pretty horrible what they did. And that's why Australia joined the war, and they said the Australian men defend the Australian nursing sisters. They took them when they sunk the cetacean. They sunk that damn ship. They torpedoed the Japanese. They're Shintos. They're mad people. Americans helped Australia. God bless them. And they came out, and Werroway was one of the fighter aircraft. What was it? It was an Australian trainer. And they had to put guns on her and hope that she could go up against heroes. They had one hell of odds. I honor Australia. And I didn't know what was going on until I got over there. Don't you know why she got into swimming and drown proofing and all this stuff? No, I don't know. Well, they were dying like when the citation and like those ships went down. So they were out from the outback, Alice Springs area, the outback boys and diggers, and they drowned. And she wanted you to swim. You became a scuba diver. You were good at that. And you've done a lot of diving in Australia. It's a good thing, mate. Your mother brought you up right. And your mother was a good woman, and she was a fine nurse of the Australian forces. She was a lieutenant. I started learning more when I was over there. She had a lot of trauma. She said it was in Port Darwin. They bombed the friggin' place. it was divine providence that I'm still alive because she was going to go out in that hospital ship, and a zero came in, hit her, and she was recovering. Hospital ship left. The nurses were shot. The ones that remained, like Bullwinkle, were on it. I think it's pretty blatantly traumatic, and another Aussie said, "I think your mother got survivor trauma." I think she might have. Bullwinkle was in there. They marched them out into the water up to their waist. These are nursing sisters of our Australian forces. You can't run, you can't run when you're in water up to your waist. You know what's coming. Bullwinkle survived, but the rest were shot dead like dogs. I'm not hating Japanese, but there's a time when it was like Nazi land. It was just like Nazi Germany. It was barbaric. Neville Shute's classic, A Town Like Ellis, exactly expresses this. And they made an Australian film on A Town Like Ellis. It's a beautiful film. But it's blatant, like the 1,000-mile death marches those Australian sisters went on. They die. They were starved to death. These were officers of the Australian forces. So I meet Paula up there. She's about 2 years younger than me. She's a Reiki master in Sydney, making good money there. And she said, my dad was in Port Darwin. It was horrible, man. Horrible, horrible. Yeah, they took a lot of those Shintos and they hung them with a shot. They had, like we had, the story about the executing German Nazis, and the Nuremberg rallies. That was Germany, Russia. They had to have execution. And they did. But they don't talk too much about the Australians going on shooting the buggers. They were shooting, they just lined them up and shot them. They're Shinto warriors. Of course, I'm a Reiki master. It's Japanese, but it's not. It's not the Sun God King. The bomb Pearl Harbor. It's not the Sun King. Here comes the sun, man. No, it's not that. It was Australia went through hell. But I started reading. I'm talking to some mates in Australia about the thoroughbred racing. That survived Australia. We're going for an economic collapse. What are you going to do, mate? You're going to invest in something that's going to keep the country go. Burnborough saved Australia. You had World War II in Diego. He's the head of Brisbane chairman of the board of racing. Talking sense. Right, you're talking sense. Because it saved Australia. I read the story. It was a horse that, you have rations. You can't get a horse to the track. Burnborough was being, Burnborough? I got the book here somewhere. And there he is. Burnborough, Australia's greatest racehorse. And they couldn't get him to the track, but they got him there. They walked him. They had to ride him 22 kilometers to exercise. So they had a 22-mile ride because they couldn't take transportation there. There he is there, Burnborough. 22 miles. And I started reading the book and I realized that Sydney was built on horse racing, gambling, everything. Yeah, I remember the Aussies. They've got a history of Irish. Ned Kelly, Mad Dog Morgan is just like Apache boys of James Gang and stuff. They just outlaws. But they're gamblers. And it's a lot of Aussie blood there. And they got into derby horses. And that's been sustaining Australia. Sport, Mike, sport. rugby, cricket, foot rules, footy. They're nuts with sport. Canada is too, but we got Manning, that other guy he took out headshots. He didn't want that. Don Cherry says, I think it's ruined the sport. There's no action in hockey anymore. But, like I mean, the sport he's there. He's running along. He's supposed to be bipolar. Could be. When you're running and running, running, and then you look down, you got no clothes on, no? He's an Australian professional footy player. He just whacked out a bit. They all do that. My little sister went running in the streets bare naked. That's Dan. It's the sort of thing we do when we're crazy. Run naked. Boy, it's a bit drafty. You look down. I got no clothes on. Oh, well. Until the little white car ambulance drivers come down and pick you up. Can I run the siren? I want to hear the siren. She's in the car. She's bare naked. She was in that X Files. Remember that? She was one of those agents in there, but she was bipolar apparently. And she's running and running and running and running and running. But I'm naked. And the little girl comes out, and her mother comes out. This woman's naked. I'll give you a little thing to cover up with, but all of a sudden the ambulance drivers come on, and can I operate the siren? I always want to ride the siren because she's wacky, bloody manic. Dan, what was it, Ben? West area, I think it was in Manitoba or somewhere. And he says, my little sister went running in the street bare naked. And he's got the look at his eye. It's a nice folk song. But she's got flowers in her hair and she's singing poetry. That's insanity. She's creative, little nudie. You want to get nude? I mean, with those girls, the bipolar heritage, I like nudity. It's a part of us wackos. We like being. Don't keep our clothes on too much. I play the piano naked. But what if I gotta get funny here? These guys you talk on the phone, they're, the salesmen and stuff, they sit at home. They're probably butt naked, but you knew that. You'd be, oh. Anyways, that's craziness, eh? Everybody that survived through the ridiculousness of life have made humor out of everything. And that's the only way I can do it because I can't really take the ridiculous without laughing at it. Because if I don't, I'll get really depressed. That crazy. You get me? So I got into Yeshua Reiki and then I kept on expanding. I feel energy all the time, especially when somebody's sick or needs healing. And I'm good at this. And I was doing distance. I'm going to start doing it for money because I got told off by other practitioners. You're doing that for free. And you got to make money because we got to make paid too. And if you're as good as us, we don't want you doing it for free because we want money. Take care. Leave. Yeah.